Now I will be reading from Rays from the Same Light, written by Swami Vivekananda. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Last week, we asked the question, why do devotees fall? And we considered the downfall of Judas. In this context, Jesus, in answer to Judas' criticism for allowing Mary to rub his feet with spikenard, a very costly ointment, said, "The poor always you have you with you, but me you have not always." Jesus is saying here that there is one supreme injustice that needs eradication. Poverty, yes, but not of a material kind. Poverty of a spiritual sense. Divine blessings are not common in this world. They are extraordinary. When they come, we should give them priority above every other consideration. Never allow a moment of inner joy, for instance, to be set aside for lesser duties. Duties is break. Divine attunement is our highest priority. As Lahiri Mahashaya, the guru of Yogananda's guru, said, to listen to the heart's inner sound, or Om, which issues from the very center of our being, is man's highest duty. Mary was not at that moment communing with the Master inwardly. She was serving outwardly, but in a spirit very different from the restless fussing for which Jesus had reprimanded her sister Martha. Those who see a radical difference between the paths of action and meditation should understand this distinction. To serve in the right spirit is necessary, for only thereby we can overcome our karmic tendency toward restless activity. The important thing is that that spirit be always inwardly focused, that in everything we do, we act in loving service to the Lord. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says in the 3rd chapter, the state of freedom from action, that is the eternal rest in the spirit, cannot be achieved without action. No one, by mere renunciation and outward non-involvement, can attain perfection. Whenever the Spirit of God descends upon you, however, remember the words of Jesus, me you have not always with you. Thus, through the Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. I'm also sending my love and saying have a happy Sunday to all of you. The reading today tells a story about Mary, and it is a very inspiring story for many, under many circumstances. We see Mary in the fullness of her devotion. We see Mary with lots of courage, incredible courage. In this encounter with many men around her, she enters with the ointment and rubs Jesus' feet. Mary has the courage to remain by the cross when almost all the men that were present there had disappeared. Mary of Magdalene, that had the courage to stay at the sepulchre, to be able to witness Jesus' resurrection. She was the first one to see it. She's a person that gives us a great inspiration. Today, I am actually taking my inspiration from a totally different side. And by the way, please turn on other lights. I'm taking inspiration, strangely enough, from the circus. From the circus. I'm serious. When we were kids, we were so enthusiastic at the idea of going to the circus to see all the strange figures there, exotic people. Now that we are adults, we maybe can go at the circus and draw some meaning from these figures. Let's talk about the people the acrobats that dive into the vastness of the void under them, knowing that they will not be able to reach the other side without the help of another athlete. But they just dive in. But when they stretch to the maximum point of their ability before grasping the end of the other colleague, what does he have to do? He has to let the stick go. And there is a moment when the athlete has nothing to sustain him or her, but he trusts in the fact that a hand will come, a hand from grace, from God, from the Guru, to help him or her, and with great courage, like Mary of Magdalene, let everything go. All worries. She flows in, trusting into the fact that she will find a hand to grasp and help. There is another example, the juggler. It's interesting. He starts with balls and tossing balls, then maybe adds some dishes. And somehow, this person can balance everything into his hands, as we are doing in our lives. Mothers, for instance, that need to cope with their children's many activities, dinner, school, soccer. A teacher that needs to make everything work with her student, the administration, the colleagues. Any job in which we're employed, there are so many things that we have to jostle in our hands. So we can certainly draw inspiration from the jostlers, trying somehow, and we will see how, trying to keep everything in a sort of balance. Let's finish with the circus. Speaking about the person that walks on top of a very tall wire, funambolo in Italian. So this man, the funambolo, with taking a very great risk, in a very subtle way, he balances himself on the edge of a razor, truly. And in his hands, he holds a very, very long rod. This rod enables him to keep his balance on top of that very thin wire, adjusting himself on top of the wire through the rod. Which inspiration can we draw from this funambule athlete? And from the rod, the fact that we as well must balance two things. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the reading today, we need to balance our exterior life, outward life, and our inward life, our meditation life, our interiority, our devotion. When Swami Kriyananda was a young disciple with his master, Paramhansa Yogananda, Yogananda used to say to him, in order to make it clear for Kriyananda what his life would have been and his mission would have been, Yogananda used to tell him, your life will be one of a deep activity and intense meditation. Paramahansa Yogananda emphasized the fact that intense activity would have been balanced by intense meditation, and Swami Kriyananda would have liked to spend all his life meditation, but this was not his dharma. This was not the way he was going to grow him, and through him, all of us. He needed to understand how to balance our outward duties and our inward life. But why shall we work outwardly? Maybe Swami Kriyananda asked this same question to his guru. We have to, I'm like to quote a phrase from Yogananda. Yogananda said, when you work for God and not for yourself, it is as much worthy as the meditation. When we work for God and not only for ourselves, it's the same thing. The value of this activity is the same as meditating. Work helps our meditation, and meditation helps our work. What we need is balance between these two activities, because when we only meditate, and in a parenthesis, if we're able to do so, when we only meditate, we can develop some laziness. Our senses may become stronger. Only working, mind becomes restless, and we tend to forget God. So we need to find this balance in between work and meditation. Yogananda gave us a key, a tool to succeed into this, an aphorism that is very dear to me and probably to many of you, when he said, we need to learn how to be calmly active and actively calm. And today I would like to dedicate my talk to this particular phrase. How can we calmly active and on the other side actively calm? There is a story, a little story from Yogananda's life. Once, when he was just about to give a talk, for some reason, he was a little bit late, and he had to reach the venue where he needed to be. He didn't want to be late, and he started running. His disciples started to run after him, and one of his disciples said to him, Master, you don't have to be nervous. And Master replied to him, I can run in a nervous way, but I can also run calmly, and I choose to run calmly. And this is our duty, this is our homework. being restless is a distraction from what that we can draw from our work and jobs. In the path, Swamiji's Kriyananda autobiography, there is a chapter that really, in a very practical way, deals with the combination between meditation and work. Swami Kriyananda tells about Yogananda asking a sister, Mirnalini Mata, to help him cook one day. Yogananda, who loved to cook, was doing different things in the kitchen. It was using practically every tool, every pot, every pan or vase that was present in the kitchen. And the disciple was very worried, was going after him. So when he was dirtying one pot, when he was using a pan, she was immediately washing it. And when he was using the board, he was continuing using more and more tools, to the point that she was totally exhausted, running after him and trying to clean everything. In the end, she stopped and understood that that was not the way to work. She tried to calm herself, and in that very moment, Yogananda smiled at her and stopped using every single tool in the kitchen because she had understood. There is another story about Miramata. One day, Master tells her, Mira, you're working so hard. You should work a little less. And Miramata said, well, Master, if you say so, I will try and do that. So she tried to get involved in less projects. The next day, Yogananda gives her a new task, a new project. And she thinks, well, he said to me to do less. And she tried to incorporate this new project in her life, but working less hours. A week after, Master gives her another task. A week later, another task. And poor Mira, probably in the kitchen, hadn't learned yet what Master was trying to teach her. In the end, Mira, being a very deep devotee, one day asks to Master, Master, maybe we should use another term, and instead of talking about work, we should use the word service. Master was very pleased, and he thought, finally she got it. So when we have the right attitude of serving in everything we do, we are not restless, we are not exhausted in the end. But whom are we trying to serve? Mother is serving her children, her husband, and I hope husbands today help their wives too. The teacher should serve his student. A physician should serve his patients. Is this real service? Service, as Master meant it, is not this. Is service to God, and only God in His various forms. God in the wife, God in the student, God in the patient. The story of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Whom was she serving? She was serving the poor. She was serving the dying. Yes or no? In her mind, she was saying, I'm serving Jesus. I am serving Jesus in the poor ones, in those who are nearly to death, but only Jesus. This is the right attitude that makes blessed and has an enormous value in our service. When we think of our service as a service to God through the people whom we're physically serving, when we can realize that every person that comes to us at the counter, in the school, on the road, in a shop, every person that we meet is sent to us by God for one reason or another. And when we start and continue to see God in each person we meet, and we keep the awareness of this precise fact, the person that comes in the shop and asks for a pair of trousers, a person that asks for counseling, for supporting, it is in reality God who's asking to us something. Jesus said, when you serve the poor, the people in jail, the hungry, you are serving myself. But only when we have this awareness and this attitude, and we see God in everybody and try to serve Him in everybody, we are on the right path. But what does God need? Is God really needing our service? God possesses everything because He created everything. God doesn't need our service, but we need. It's us who need to serve Him, because through this service we can purify our heart. I have another quote that comes later, actually. There are serving some traps in which we may fall. When we enter into work, into serving, one spiritual attitude is giving everything and not taking a little part to ourselves, giving our 100%, our 150, if possible, percent. And when we do so, we enter into a rhythm of work where at a certain point work overcomes us. We created an enormous magnetism through energy that captures us and draws us like a tornado. And sometimes it's very difficult to get out of that vortex. We get trapped into the work, into our service, and we forget God. We have so many things to do. We want to take to the good conclusion a project. And what do? We meditate less in our meditation, and we are scattered. And we think principally of that particular job, and we have some incredible ideas, and we need to stop meditation, think about it, and then we try again to dive into meditation. But very easily we can become slaves of our service, slaves of our activity, instead of being mastering our energy. What can we do about this? When we are in this very particular predicament, Yogananda gives us a very good inspiration. he says, he was quoting the Bhagavad Gita and said, the Bhagavad Gita suggests to all of us to start our activities with mental attitude which is inwardly drawn and immersed into God, doing all we need to be doing, being entirely immersed in God. Whomever acts this way learns how to work in a state of freedom. So, a trick not to be engulfed into the vortex of work is to be always, try and be always centered like the jostler. He is able to balance all the dishes, all the bowls, only when he's centered into himself and is not distracted by other things. There is a classic story from India that tells about a disciple, Sukdeva, sent by his father to study with the great king Janaka. Sukdeva, he really wasn't in favor of this because his father was a wise man, but Janaka was only, quotes, a king. He didn't know that it was a very holy king. So Janaka, before accepting this new disciple, said, you need to pass one test. The test was to hold in his hands a vase full of oil in both hands. He had one. The test was to walk through the entire royal castle, each staircase, each room, each corner, inside and outside, looking at everything and returning without having spilled one single drop of oil. So Sukdev goes, holds his bottles, his vases with oil, and he goes everywhere, looks, climbs the stairs, balancing, and he knows it's not allowed to spill one single drop. Then, when he has seen all the palace, he comes back very proud of himself, and he just says to the king, now I haven't spilled a single drop. And the guru says, well, on the third floor of the palace in a blue room, please describe me all the objects inside. And the little one says, which blue room? Now, the ground floor, there is a music room. Tell me which instruments are there. The little boy says, I do not know. I haven't seen them because my focus was on not spilling a single drop of oil. The King Janaka says, this is not the duty I have given you. The task was not to spill a drop, but to look at everything. Then you have to return and finish your task, the second part, which is observing everything. And with lots of effort, the little devotee went all around the palace and could describe all that he had seen along the palace. This is a secret, a key to creating perfect balance in all that we do. In all we do not want to spill a single drop of oil of our inward communion and devotion for God, of our love for God. We want to hold that vase glass full of oil, of our love. And with this, we want to do all the things that we have to do in our life. Swami Kriyananda worked, served very much in his life. And very often, people would ask him, Swamiji, how can you do so many things? When Swamiji was writing a book, maybe in the morning would write and would write up to very late at night. And Swami's answer was, I'm giving all my love, all my concentration, all my strength to all I am doing. And I try never to lose my inner peace. When I find that I am losing a drop of my inner peace, I stop. Try to recuperate, regain that interiorization. This is a very useful guideline. Serving, giving all our energy, always keeping it in our mind that vase of oil. And when we realize we're dropping, spilling some oil, we need to stop. And we have many, many ways to recuperate our energy and attunement. Every day, Swamiji would stop his work around 4:45 to have tea in a very English manner. So, tea time at 5, he would invite friends, he would stop everything he was doing, he would take his tea, a little biscuit, have a conversation and sharing with others, and at 6 o'clock he would go back to his work, and then after a while he would have dinner. He had a balanced life. He knew how to jostle, how to balance the rod. How can we balance and keep that balance in our life? To tell you the truth, almost all of us are distracted and drawn in our work in a direction or other. We have to be like tennis players, top ones, champions. They have a secret. They're certainly good at what they do, but they do have a secret, which is the fact that they try to keep their center of the tennis court. When they are in the center of it, they can just move from there more easily. The ball goes in one direction or other. From the center, they can catch it. Where is our center? On the tennis field. It is in our spine, in our interior part. Yogananda was saying we have to live more from the spine. We have Ananda Yoga, which says that, tells us after going on one side of with the body, return to the center before going on the other side. This is a very nice indication. After every action, returning to our center. We have the energization exercises, but just double breathing and contracting all our muscles and expiration. If we do it several times each hour or each few hours, when we notice that our energy is risking to be trapped, sucked into the vortex, let's double breathe. Let's contract simultaneously all the muscles in our body and return to our center. When Jyotish was here last year, maybe 2 years ago, he gave us a little exercise that helps us to remain balanced balanced at the center of the tennis court. Just taking your index finger and put it onto the spiritual eye, the right hand index. Close your eyes and hold it there for 15 seconds. Forget everything. Try to see a light there. If you want, you can lightly rub and massage that point with your finger and then relax and let go. Another way to return to our center. And this is the way to be calmly active, returning to our center, finding our balance again. Balance, though, changes in our life from one day to the other, from one phase of life to the other. We may see it from astrology. There are cycles in our life. Ci sono i Mahadasha, e poi and then the small dashas, the transiting planets. All of this has a strong influence in how to keep our balance. In the Ayurveda, they talk about different cycles in life. The more we progress in life, we become more vata, more light. So every day, day by day, we have to readjust our balance. In India, they talk about 4 phases in life. The first phase, youthness, to explore the world. The second phase, being productive, working, sustaining our family, providing for family and society. But there are also 2 more phases, and we need to be aware of this. There is a third phase in life, interiorization, studying. Let younger ones that are in their productive cycle doing less with a productive state of mind and more studying. And there is a 4th phase in life, which is a phase of sharing with others from a point of view of wisdom. So take into your consideration in which phase of life you are exploring. You need to find one type of balance, production another one, interiorization another one again, sharing one different point of balance. So we have to be day by day like a tree, adjusting day by day to where the wind blows. In this way we can live in freedom when we are perfectly balanced, perfectly aligned, as we do in Ananda Yoga, when we find that perfect point of balance where everything is balanced, we can live in freedom, we can fly. And this is my wish for you all.